Well, okay, I thought I would do another Ragnarök Cometh and do a roundup of all of the events that are now playing out in the way of environmental changes. And as usual, I thought we would start with the solar data and have a look at what the energy has been like between us and our star. And we can see that we have leveled off. However, we are still seeing energy. We can see now we've got a little bit of energy here, okay? But not only are we seeing energy continue in the data that we can actually identify, we've also got to understand there's energy that NASA is not showing us, one being the ether, and we know that they put the wave particle counter up on the ISS in 2011. I did a video on that. And they had a conference with the Vatican about it. Yes, the Vatican were very interested in that piece of equipment. So, yes, there's other energy that is also needing to be accounted for that we're not seeing on the data, and that's also playing out in the environment. But we are already seeing some pretty severe extremes in the next week in our weather, both in the southern hemisphere and the northern hemisphere. To start with, we've got extreme heat in the southern hemisphere in Western Australia up the north. Okay, now they didn't break a temperature. They said it was just 2.2 degrees short of its highest temperature ever recorded. However, we have to factor in that we're having a lot of these severe events in close proximity, so that needs to be accounted for, not just seeing, oh, there was an anomaly that happened 50 years ago and saying because of that we don't factor in that we're having a massive blizzard in the northern hemisphere and that we're also seeing other weather events that are very extreme playing out. So definitely something to pay attention to, and just understand that the propaganda mouthpieces, okay, are not going to tell you all of the information. So you need to go and seek that out for yourself and make sure you are aware of exactly what you're dealing with, because they do not want to have to basically prepare for what's coming, and they know what it would take to prepare for what's coming. So they're just going to smooth over everything as things just continue to get more extreme and more extreme, and that's just what's happening. It's just becoming more extreme all the time. The pressure's building, the pressure's mounting, going towards that tipping point, and we're seeing it accelerate because it's almost like as we're moving down the spiral, it's getting tighter and cause and effect is happening closer together, and we're heading towards 0 point basically. So events are just happening very quickly, and they're just going to keep doing that, just keep accelerating. And this is when people just will flip, because it will take a lot of mental strength when it starts getting very extreme, and we're not there yet. We're just starting to put our toes in the water of what's coming. We're just starting to see it, because we haven't even seen any major, crisis happen to humanity yet because of all of these climate changes. And we will, because I will show you another article, we are about to see a major crisis happen to humanity, and it's going to be very hard for people to deal with, because it's going to result in a lot of people dying very, horribly of thirst. So let's first check out what's been going on in the southern hemisphere. We've had this extreme heat wave going on over in Western Australia, okay? This is, basically still ongoing, high temperatures. Today here it's actually just slightly eased off, but it is still quite high in the temperatures. We've had, down in New South Wales on the eastern side of Australia, a tornado. Now, we've had quite a few tornadoes starting to be reported on the eastern side of Australia, both around the Sunshine Coast and the northern New South Wales coasts. So I would be very much paying attention to these tornadoes, because they do seem to be increasing, and they do seem to actually be a factor in your environment now, because they are occurring, and not just once. It's no longer just an anomaly, because they have been occurring. So that's something else that we have to be aware of. These changes that some areas have never witnessed before, and suddenly that is an environmental event that you need to prepare for. And a tornado can do a lot of damage. I mean, the path of a tornado is actually only not a very wide path. But in that path, they can exact a lot of freaking damage. So you don't want your house to be under one of those things, because, yes, it's going to not be very nice. So then we have, as I was telling you, this crisis that's about to happen, and Brazil is about to run out of water. It is really a bad situation in Brazil. They're not reporting it to the extent that it should be reported. But you know why? The Vatican don't like Brazil. This is why Francis, has connections to Brazil, all right? The Vatican and Brazil are very connected, and from what my esoteric knowledge shows me is it's basically they've made South America the body of man, and North America the head and mind of man, consciousness of man. And so it seems that certain places in Brazil, they just are targeting with their ritualistic fuckery. And as I said, if you don't really see the full story behind all of what's happening, you won't understand why all these events are now coming to a tipping point together. And the Vatican have planned it that way, that when it starts getting very extreme in the weather, people will be suffering, people will be poor. Look at what they're doing in the UK now, bullying people off welfare. And I just saw an article where they were smug, and laughing in the article, and they had these folders where they were walking to people's houses to go and push them off welfare. They want people vulnerable, and then they're going to basically strike. So if you are in areas like this, I really would recommend you leave, move away. Really, you stand more of a chance than actually being in a highly populated area without access to water. Go and be just an independent traveller and find yourself a source of water somewhere. Bring your family, whatever you need to do, but you need to find water. You cannot stay in an area that has no access to water. You will die. You will die of thirst. And they're also hitting Brazil with food shortages. I've seen lots of stories on empty shelves. So really, they are attacking Brazil, okay? Have to understand, we're dealing with evil people, and they're doing things from behind the curtain with the hidden hand that we don't quite understand, because it's all just beneath the surface. But when you understand their language and you see the context of the information and the motivations of these people, then you understand why they're psychopaths, and you understand why they're destroying our planet and destroying the divinity within mankind. And so we have to really understand that. So if you're watching this and you have friends or relatives in Brazil, tell them to leave. They must find a passage out some way, somehow, especially if they have children, if they want to survive what is coming. Now, it may not happen in 6 months. It may not even happen in 12 months. There may be some attempt to get aid to these people, but eventually it will collapse. So having this information now, gives you a heads up over the whole mass collective seeing at the one time the situation they're in and then mass panic, actually causing very negative events. So you don't want to be stuck in that. You want to be one step ahead. So that means acting on what we know, acting on what's consciously being perceived. And so if we see the information but we don't act on it, then it's not useful to us to even have the information. We have to act on it. So now is the time for acting. We've been discussing all of this information for quite a while now, 4 years since 2010, basically end of 2010, the BP oil disaster, and from then on consciousness in man has woken to understand that things aren't what they seem, and so now it's time to act, or just be taken out with all of the unconscious who are just sleepwalking to their demise, okay? Just sleepwalking to their demise, knowing everything. They are gods and they manifest their reality, and so they have not a care in the world. So if you want to be in that group, then just don't act on your instincts, what your gut is telling you, your gut is telling you, the reason you found this video to see this information. I mean, this is all factoring into your experience, and you either act on it or you don't. That's what it comes down to. It's no mystery. This is how it works. You are given information on a conscious level and you need to act on it. And this is what the fifth chakra is also symbolizing. Nobody understands the fifth chakra. Everyone just puts it on the back shelf. Oh, we won't talk about the fifth chakra. Let's just go to the third eye and the crown and the heart and, But the throat chakra is the most important chakra because it's your rudder. It's what basically steers your destiny of whether you'll act on your consciousness or whether you won't, whether you'll act on your heart or whether you won't. So basically, it's your rudder that's steering either a positive path or a negative, and they're there. Some things are fated, but there is a path back to your crown. Everyone has it. So it's only the few that find that path. It says so, narrow is the way, and few there be that find it. And that's because few there be that find it act on what they are consciously perceiving and taking in as information. That's where your intellect comes in and starts working with your intuition and your gut and your heart and your knowing, your intuition. Just when you know someone is staring at you and you turn around and, they're staring at you, and you say, how? How did I know? Because you have physical parts of your body that pick up environmental factors and give them to you at that level, in your gut, in your heart. And then you're supposed to process that and act on it. Often what happens is the head just overrules everything. The head knows best. So this is where sometimes, if that's how you live, you just go out with the collective consensus, because they all think the head knows best too. Nobody's actually listening to their instincts and taking in their environment and seeing what's happening as the planet is collapsing around us and doing anything on it or anything about it. So that is what your intuition and your heart and your knowing is actually relaying to you. That feeling of knowing, when you put together all of the information, it resonates to you in a way that is either positive or negative, or giving you a clearer understanding. And so the clearer understanding is that the planet is being collapsed. Okay, they're collapsing her environments and her ecology. That's why they're poisoning all of the oceans, taking out the smaller vertebrates. That just collapses the food chain. This is why we're seeing die-offs with the whales. I think larger mammals sometimes too. It could be that their food chain is just not supporting them anymore in that way and keeping them healthy. Not to mention everything else is being poisoned just through toxins. So they're just basically swimming in a toxic soup. So once they collapse the ocean ecology, then that will just domino effect onto everything else, which they know also. So that's basically what we're dealing with on a larger scale. And, you know, we may have a couple more years before that plays out, but we don't know what other factors we have to also take into account. And there are various. The climate and the environment collapsing is only one level, because we've got the political level as well, and then we've got the external macro environment that governs us from elsewhere that's also having an influence on the sun and, you know, what's happening within our environment here. So, yes, very concerning for Brazil. Really wanted to send that message home to Brazil that you need to take this seriously. This is going to be something that you need to really start acting upon. California, you're getting there too. Okay, you've probably got a little bit longer, dependent on political environment. If the economy, you know, collapses, who knows then? But you are starting to get into this situation too. Whether you want to face that reality or not is up to you, but the factors that I am taking into account, looking at the whole picture, show me that you are in a perilous position like Brazil when it comes to water. However, Brazil is looking the barrel of the gun in the frickin' face now. Not looking good. So, you know, use Brazil as an example, but this will also start people in other areas that are facing, you know, water problems to perhaps go into fear and panic. So also factor that into your influences that you have to deal with. As I said, it's going to start getting more intense on a lot of levels. Right, so we've got a huge blockbuster snowstorm along the northeast coast Monday night. Okay. Now, I follow first-hand weather. He is an excellent meteorologist. He doesn't over-exaggerate things and he doesn't underplay things like I see some of these weather sites do. And he is actually calling this historic. I'll show you his article after this one. This is the Washington Post article, but his article, when I saw him actually stating the information in his article, I realised that yes, this is something you have to pay attention to, because he's calling it historic. This is going to be a big storm. Okay? So his article basically goes on to say, where was it? I highlighted it. The regions that could be hit the hardest will likely be from Philadelphia up through New Jersey, New York City, Long Island, Boston and up through Maine. Blizzard conditions could occur along all of these regions, especially from the Jersey Shore up through New York City and Boston and eventually up towards Maine. Forecast models have been consistent with dumping at least a foot of snow all over these regions, with New York City and the Boston area getting up to 2 feet of snow. Okay, so really need to be paying attention to all of this information and what is going on with these storms. Now, what else do we have? Volcano. Massive eruption in Mexico, 15 villages blanketed. Okay. Giants awakening. Awaken, giants. Bringeth in Ragnarök. That's what we want, because it's changing the atmospheric conditions, and this is also changing the way the energy flows throughout our atmosphere and environment too. It's all factoring in. So Very, very good sign we're still seeing volcanoes erupting. Now, I think that is pretty much it. Just the stick insect is explaining the weather moving down towards Boston as well. And I'm sorry, any of these media people, these women stick insects who just do no favour to the female gender. So I'm not going to give them any respect at all. Don't expect that on my channel. But that is pretty much it for the roundup, guys. And for all of you guys over in the US that want to know how hot 47.8 degrees is over here, it's 118.4 degrees Fahrenheit. So pretty hot. Sucks to be you, WA. Hope you guys are drinking lots of water, keeping cool, get in front of those fans, get that aircon cranking. Not looking forward to your electricity bills though. And soon we'll also start seeing them take away our power and the grids will start dropping out. So be ready for that too. All levels. As I said, guys, I'll pretty much leave it there, and I'll post all of the articles underneath. And as always, peace out.